الدجال، سلسلة في حلقات تتحرى قدوم الأعور الدجال وظهور الإمام المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وعودة السيد المسيح عليه السلام. هذه السلسلة تميط اللثام عن مجموعة دينية سرية تدعو إلى عبادة الشيطان، تحركت عبر مئات السنين وتركت بصماتها في التاريخ، كما أنها أحدثت انحرافات خطيرة عصفت بالبشرية، وخططت للكثير من الثورات والانقلابات، وقامت بتأسيس الكثير من المنظمات السرية والعلنية لتمرير مخططاتها الشريرة في السيطرة على العالم، وهي الآن في مراحلها الأخيرة لإتمام مشروعها الكوني الخطير، فهي تسيطر على كل مفاصل الحياة في الأرض، تهيمن على الاقتصاد العالمي، تدير عجلة السياسة، وتسيطر على كل المنظمات العالمية، تسيطر على التجارة العالمية بكل أنواعها، وتهيمن على دول كثيرة من خلال الديون وفوائدها، أو من خلال السياسيين أتباعهم الذين يحكمون تلك البلدان. إنهم يعملون بكل قواهم لتأسيس نظامهم الجديد الذي يهيئ الأرض لقدوم الأعور الدجال. هذه السلسلة ستتحرى تاريخهم ورموزهم وطقوسهم، عبادتهم ومعابدهم. سنثبت لكم كيف تسللوا بيننا، إنه جهد خير كبير يتحرك في كل العالم لتحذير الناس من خطورة ما يحصل. أغرب وأقوى ما في هذا النظام الاستعبادي هو الإمبراطورية الاقتصادية الهائلة التي أسستها الماسونية لتسيطر على كل شعوب العالم من خلال الديون وفوائدها. هذا النظام الاقتصادي المتعسف جعل شعوبا بأكملها تفقد سيادتها على أرضها ويصادر قرارها السياسي والسيادي، وبالتالي تتحول إلى تابع ذليل لهذا النظام الذي يزداد ثراء وقوة في حين تزداد الشعوب فقرا وضعفا. إمبراطورية تحكمها مجموعة من الشركات خلف ستار من السياسيين الذين يمثلون الواجهة الشرعية الملفقة للنظام، لأن صانع القرار الحقيقي يقبع خلف الكواليس، يراقب المشهد ويقود العالم بصمت نحو نهاية خطط لها بعناية كبيرة. ولفهم كيفية اشتغال هذا النظام الاقتصادي القاتل، دعونا نشاهد اعترافات أحد أهم عملاء المخابرات الأمريكية الاقتصاديين والمسؤول عن ملفات اقتصادية خطيرة غيرت تاريخ شعوب بأكملها. إنه جون بيركنز، صاحب كتاب اعترافات قاتل اقتصادي محترف، والذي انضم إلى قافلة الدعاة لفتح إمبراطورية النظام العالمي الجديد.
I have a very strong conviction that when we leave here tonight, all of us, together we will be determined, you and I, to go out and do the right thing. And it's the pragmatic thing, it's the rational thing, and it's the patriotic thing. And we're going to turn this country around, we're going to turn the world around in that process, and we're going to create a world that my 24-year-old daughter and her children will be very happy to inherit. And that means that every child growing up today and in the future in Nigeria and in Indonesia and in the Philippines and in Iraq and in Bolivia and Ecuador and Mexico also will be happy about what's going to happen here tonight. The movement that we're going to get going on to change this country, because I believe that it's not that difficult. It's a challenge, but we're going to move forward with it. Before we get into that, though, I would just like to talk a little bit about, from my perspective as an economic hitman, what's really been going on in the history of this world in my lifetime, which really began at the end of World War II. I was born just before World War II ended in 1945. From my perspective, what we've been doing since the end of World War II is building an empire. And today we have managed to build the world's first truly global empire. It's the first in the history of the world. And it's also the first empire that's really been built without the military for the most part. It's been built through economics, through economic hitmen like me. The military has been there standing in the background, prepared to go in to serve us, to take care of things when we failed. But it's been essentially built through economics. It's also the first empire without an emperor. But the fact of the matter is, instead of an empire, what we have today, and what's been growing stronger and stronger since World War II, is what I call the corporatocracy. The majority of the people in the United States have no idea that we're living off the benefits of a clandestine empire. That today there's more slavery in the world than ever before. And then you have to ask yourself, well, if it's an empire, then who's the emperor? Obviously, our presidents of the United States are not emperors. An emperor is someone who's not elected, doesn't serve a limited term, and doesn't report to anyone, essentially. So you can't classify our presidents that way. But we do have what I consider to be the equivalent of the emperor, and it's what I call the corporatocracy. The corporatocracy is this group of individuals who run our biggest corporations, and they really act as the emperor of this empire. They control our media, either through direct ownership or advertising. They control most of our politicians because they finance their campaigns, either through their corporations or through personal contributions that come out of the corporations. They're not elected. They don't serve a limited term. They don't report to anybody. And at the very top of the corporatocracy, you really can't tell whether a person's working for a private corporation or the government because they're always moving back and forth. So, you've got a guy who one moment is the president of a big construction company like Halliburton, and the next moment he's vice president of the United States, or the president who is in the oil business. And this is true whether you've got Democrats or Republicans in the office. You have them moving back and forth through the revolving door. And in a way, our government is invisible a lot of the time, and its policies are carried out by our corporations on one level or another. And then again, the policies of the government are basically forged by the corporatocracy.
هي شبكة معقدة من الشركات العالمية والبنوك الدولية تملك الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية أكثرها، وبالتعاون مع بعض الدول النفطية تشكل نظام اقتصادي هائل. القائد الحقيقي لهذه الشبكة لا يعرفه أحد، ويقال إن النخبة من أعضائها يجتمعون به، وهو الذي يقود أمريكا والعالم. مخطط يبين توزيع السلطات الاقتصادية المسيطرة على اقتصاد العالم وآليات التحكم بالسياسات الدولية من خلال الاقتصاد. سكان العالم يقبعون في قعر الهرم.
We economic hitmen really have been the ones responsible for creating this first truly global empire. And we work many different ways. But perhaps the most common is that we will identify a country that has resources our corporations covet, like oil, and then arrange a huge loan to that country from the World Bank or one of its sister organizations. But the money never actually goes to the country. Instead, it goes to our big corporations to build infrastructure projects in that country, power plants, industrial parks, ports, things that benefit a few rich people in that country, in addition to our corporations, but really don't help the majority of the people at all. However, those people, the whole country is left holding a huge debt. It's such a big debt they can't repay it, and that's part of the plan, that they can't repay it. And so at some point, we economic hitmen go back to them and say, listen, you owe us a lot of money, can't pay your debt, so sell your oil real cheap to our oil companies. Allow us to build a military base in your country, or send troops in support of ours to someplace in the world like Iraq, or vote with us on the next UN vote. To have their electric utility company privatized and their water and sewage system privatized and sold to U.S. corporations or other multinational corporations. So there was that whole mushrooming thing, and it's so typical of the way the IMF and the World Bank work, that you put a country in debt, it's such a big debt it can't pay it, and then you offer to refinance that debt and pay even more interest. And you demand this quid pro quo, which you call a conditionality or good governance, which means basically that they've got to sell off their resources, including many of their social services, their utility companies, their school systems sometimes, their penal systems, their insurance systems, to foreign corporations. So it's a double, triple, quadruple whammy.
هناك جهات تعمل بكل صراحة لنشر الشر، وبعضهم يصرح بعبادة الشيطان، عبادة الشيطان ويسميه إله الشر وملك الشر وما شابه ذلك. إذن نحن في عصرنا يمكننا أن نقول أن النظام العالمي فيه قوى، فيه جهات تعمل تخطط نفس المنحى والاتجاه الذي سلكه أعداء الأنبياء عليهم السلام يسلك الآن. والعجيب أنه هناك تناغم بين هؤلاء وبين فئات في الأمة الإسلامية. هؤلاء كل شغلهم ليلهم ونهارهم يخططون به، وبعضهم يصرح باسم الشيطان وبعبادة الشيطان يعملون للإفساد في الأرض. وهؤلاء هم الذين يتكفل الله عز وجل بأنه ينهي إفسادهم على يد الإمام المهدي سلام الله عليه.
This is a political building, so we're told. In fact, it's a temple to a secret society built by the Freemasons to a specific design, Congress, the Congress building. Where did it get its name from? Capitol Hill, from a sacred place of the Roman Brotherhood going way back called Capitoline Hill. And when Madeleine Albright, high priestess of this brotherhood, became Secretary of State, and she went across on her first overseas visit to Europe, she actually went to Rome and made an official visit. What for her would have been a pilgrimage to Capitoline Hill in Rome, and that's where we get Capitol Hill from. This is George Washington. In the last century, they decided they didn't have a decent statue of George, so instead of getting an American to produce one, they ordered it from Italy, from Florence. And when it arrived on the dockside, people were staggered, because here was George, the first president of the United States, depicted naked from the waist up with this cloth over his Bill Clinton's, and then pointing up one arm, pointing down the other. What's going on? Unless you realize where these people are coming from, it's inexplicable. Well, if you just hold that in your mind, arm up, arm down, naked from the waist up, and then Bill Clinton's covered in a piece of cloth, well, this is where it's coming from. This is the ancient depiction of the compilation of the negative force symbol that the Templars worshipped, or the high-level Templars worshipped anyway, called Baphomet. And this is why they depicted George Washington in that way.
What's come to light is that it's now been, it is not so surprising for a lot of people that there are covens amongst the very educated class, architects, doctors, lawyers, priests, brokers, and the leisure class.
These are people who have made pacts with the devil.
That's right. It's really the best, the more accurate way of describing would be that they have indulged themselves in the worship of the goat, of the prince, of the serpent, of Satan, of Lucifer, and they lead perfectly normal lives. They're jewel merchants. They travel. They're prominent in their own way, but they do have this indulgence.
Father, here's a part of that I can never understand. That has never made sense to me. And that is, if somebody were to make a pact with the devil, then obviously the implication is if the devil is there to make a pact with them, to make a deal, to make their life, their short mortal life on earth, pleasurable, with money or women or travel.
Or more interesting.
Whatever it is they want.
Yes.
Then they are aware of the presence of the devil, and they are obviously aware then of the presence of God as well, and they nevertheless make a conscious, stupid, short-term, blind choice to take what they can get in this lifetime. And to embrace one, you must embrace the other. It's not like it's some wishy-washy person.
I know you do. It is a very not easy to understand, except when you talk with them, when they let their hair down and peel grapes, as we say, and when they're on their way to being cured of what or healed is the proper word. You find that there's an exhilaration and a satisfaction which is both sensual and sexual and mental when they really indulge in Luciferian worship. There is a peculiar exhilaration.
Like a drug, then?
Yes, it's a peculiar exhilaration. And of course, the godly instincts in us all, the angelic in us all, because we all have something angelic and something godly, besides everything else, a lot of other negative things, that is quenched. And you find in them a horror of anything what we call sacred and holy or sacrosanct, or the idea of the sacred, of the awesome.
هل تعتقد أن هؤلاء الرجال استطاعوا أن ينفذوا هذه المؤامرة العالمية الكبيرة وحدهم؟ حاول أن تركز على سلوك وانتماء النخبة هذه، وستجد أنها خطة تاريخية تكاد تكون متكاملة. لماذا كرست هذه النخبة والمجتمعات السرية كل جهدها لخطة لن تثمر في حياتها؟ هل وضع البشر أهداف هذه الخطة؟ أم أن قوى أخرى أكبر من البشر تدخلت لوضع أهداف هذه الخطة الشريرة؟ لقد باع هؤلاء أرواحهم لقادة الخطة الفعليين مقابل فوائد دنيوية مثل الغنى والقوة، والمستفيد الأكبر من هذه الخطة هو الأعور الدجال. هل تعلم ماذا يسمى المسيح الدجال في الإسلام؟ إنه الأعور الدجال، أي الكاذب ذو العين الواحدة. وهل هي مصادفة أن يختار هؤلاء العين الواحدة رمزا لهم؟ أم أن هذه هي هويتهم التي يصرون عليها؟ ولماذا رموزهم الوثنية والتي تعود إلى عبادة الشيطان قديما تتوسط الساحات في العالم؟ من يقودهم ويملي عليهم كل هذه الأجهزة؟ محاربة الأديان ونشر الأفكار الإلحادية بين الأمم من أهم شعارات الماسونية التي تبنتها ماكينتهم الإعلامية الهائلة. لقد تم إنتاج الكثير من الأفلام وطبعت ملايين الكتب والدراسات التي تحرض على تهميش الدين وتقويض دوره في حياة الناس والتشكيك بنبوة الأنبياء وحقيقة وجودهم. وعمدوا إلى تصوير الأديان السماوية التي جاءوا بها على أنها مجموعة من العادات والتقاليد والخرافات القديمة التي لا تصلح لهذا العالم الجديد الذي يبشرون به، عالم خال من الدين.
On the back of the dollar bill, there's a seal on this side. It's called the Great Seal of the United States. That's what it's called. It's their seal. Now, behind the seal, this is actually what is behind the Great Seal of the United States, is a pyramid with one eye. Now, the one eye is the sun god, Ray, which is where we get the word ray, sun rays. It is the sun god, same Mithraic character, and he shows up again and again. This is the Masonic god of the ray. If you look, you'll see the pyramid is built except for the top. It's built except for the top. The eye is suspended above the top. It hasn't come down yet. Because they believe until they've finished the Masonic project, which is the what they say on the bottom, Novus Ordo Seclorum, and then Annuetta Chapters, he is pleased with our project. In other words, the God they believe in is pleased with our project. What is the project? This is the question. What is the project that this God is pleased with? The project is literally the secularization of the world. To completely strip the world from religious beliefs. This is the project, and that is why it is called Novus Ordo Seclorum, a new secular or worldly order. If you translate that into Arabic, it would be a Nizam al-Alami ad-Dunyawi, not al-Jadid. It would be ad-Dunyawi, the new temporal order, the new order of the world.
هذا هو الشعار الذي رفعوه، عالم بلا دين، أو بالأحرى عالم بدين واحد وهو عبادة الشيطان. هذا العالم الملون هو واجهة المشروع الكبير الذي جند ملايين الأتباع لعبادة الشيطان. إنهم ينشرون دينهم عكس ما يصرحون به. لقد خططوا لأن يصبح الجميع جزءا من هذا النظام، بل أن يكونوا عبيدا له، وبالتالي سيصبحون شعب الدجال.
Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. It is all around us, even now in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you. What truth? That you are a slave, like everyone else. You were born into a prison that you cannot smell. You have to let it all go, Neil. Fear, doubt, disbelief. Free you are.
في الحلقة القادمة سنتعرف إلى سلالة النور، السلالة التي حملت على عاتقها مشروع الإنسانية بكاملها، وقفت وتحدت مشروع الشيطان ودفعت ثمن وقوفها وتحديها قتلا وتشريدا. قتل أتباعهم، ولكن مشروعهم قادم لا محالة، لأن الله تعالى أراد لمشروعه أن يسود وينتصر. في الحلقة القادمة سنتعرف إلى الخطة النهائية الكبرى التي أعدها الدجال وأعوانه لمواجهة مشروع الأنبياء عليهم السلام، الذي بدأت تلوح في الأفق بشائر نصر.